So let's just jump in. I'm very excited about this particular book because giants. What is the name of the book and what do we find in it?
Bigby presents Glory of the Giants is the name of the book. And in it we find both glory and giants with a healthy dose of Bigby.
Perfect. For those that don't know, who is Bigby?
Bigby is a famous wizard from the world of Greyhawk who's best known for his Bigby's Hand spell. He was a friend of Mordenkainen and Mordenkainen.
Depending on how you want to say it, yeah.
They actually have sort of a weird, troubled history where Bigby was a henchman to Mordenkainen, and the relationship was not always amicable, but they grew to be friends and peers, equals in the wizarding world. We have a narrative of Bigby stretching through it's really primarily told in the chapter start illustrations for the 6 chapters of this book. In the first one, we see Bigby killed by a frost giant's boulder, smushed under the boulder.
That's right, yeah, the artwork for that is fantastic.
Yes. While Mordenkainen looks on horrified. And the sort of narrative that accompanies that explains that after that fateful incident, Mordenkainen claims that no cleric was available to cast Raise Dead, only a druid with reincarnation, which is why Bigby is a gnome.
Perfect.
In the rest of the art throughout this book.
And I expect Bigby is like a little salty about that whole...
He is a little salty about that, yeah.
Yeah. I like the through lines in all the books, that you always have that commentary. I always find that to be really fun.
This book in particular, Bigby's journey, I mean, it starts with that very unfortunate beginning, and in the next one we see him encounter Diancastra, this giant demigod, the daughter of Annam, who is known for wandering in the material plane and interacting with mortals sometimes. And he strikes up a friendship with this giant demigod and sort of grows beyond his prejudice about giants. His eyes are opened to the glory of giants. He realizes the majesty of their civilization and the glory that they have lost.
What in particular are you excited about in this book? Because like, there's a lot in the book. We have like player options, we've got deep lore dives, we have story hooks, we have locations, we have monsters.
So player options in the book include the Path of the Giant Barbarian. So I played a gnome pirate in a one-shot a couple months ago who was this mild-mannered little gnome, but when the ship got attacked, he ran to this barrel by the mast with a big "Do Not Touch" sign on it that had a great axe in it. He pulls out this great axe that's like twice his size, and then he grows to 4 times his size and swings this axe around because he becomes large when he rages.
I am a fan of always taking a very tiny creature and making it huge, like a goblin, a gnome, a halfling.
Yeah. The art for that shows a halfling grown to giant size. Beyond just that one subclass, there's background options, 2 of them that give you feats that let you tie into the flavor of giants in cool and exciting ways.
Those are like kind of themed as if you've been living amongst giants your entire life.
The first one is the giant foundling background that gives you the strike of the giant's feet. That is like, yes, I grew up among giants. I grew up around giant stuff. I might have a salad fork as my trident. So the second one is the rune carver, which means that you've studied ancient giant magic, the runes that they carve into things to wield magic, which is a theme that gets picked up primarily in the bestiary chapter in the book with lots of giants that use that magic as well.
Yeah, I did notice that like a lot of the monsters like have different types of runecraft magic or are associated with also different types of energies in the planes, which is really fun. But like once we get past the player options, which are really cool, and I really like the barbarian, Path of the Giant, because you get big, you can move people around the battlefield, you can throw people even against their will, and then they have to take damage, and you get to be huge. It's very barbarian friendly.
Yes.
The next chapter is really about bringing giants to life and showing how eclectic they are in D&D, because I am a big fan of giants. I never thought I would get this much giant lore.
Yeah, so it starts off talking about sort of giving the DM tips for bringing a giant to life at the table, helping you convey the scale of the encounter that you're having to the players. Everything from stand up at the table and stop your feet and make some noise, to things like the giant is holding a watermelon and takes a bite out of it as if it's an apple, right? Just that kind of, okay, I get a sense of how big this is. So then it goes on to talk about things like giant society, giant organizations, giant gods is a big part of it. We talk about Annam and all his children, but then also all the evil or subversive forces that try to lure giants away from the worship of Annam and his children, which include things like a couple of demon princes, Yinagu, Kastchichi, Demogorgon, but also forces like elemental evil, which tie into the giants' elemental connections but twist those to corrupted ends.
Aside from all the adventure hooks, there's a lot of great locations that themselves feel like adventure hooks, whether it's like a root of the world tree, and that's a location. Tell me about the different locations that we can find.
Right, so there's like 18 locations, I think, something like that. Each of them has a full page map and then a full page of description. We included 6 that are pretty closely tied to the 6 giant kinds in the monster manual, but they're not just like Steading of the Hill Giant Chief, Glacial Rift of the Frost Giant Jarl. In each case, we were trying to evoke the glory of giants, right? There's like a star forge, literally from a fallen star, where Bigby went and forged his beneficent bracelet, which appears in the book as well. The kind of place where you go to make an artifact. There's a demiplane, the idea being it was removed from the world before the fall of some great giant empire of the past to sort of preserve it off in the distance, but what's happened to it in the meantime. Then there's a huge section of magic items. These are items that are giant themed in various ways. There's actually 3 artifacts in this chapter. One is connected to Annam, one is connected to Diancastra, and one is Bigby's beneficent bracelet. But then a whole bunch of other magic items that might be things that giants made for their little humanoid friends, or things that they made for themselves. Many things that incorporate giant runes on them. There's
like a giant blunderbuss, which I immediately gravitated towards. I'm like, that's going to have some heft.
Yes.
It really is much like, Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. They're like, what are all these giant themed magical items? That's what's really fun.
Yep.
There's a lot for players in this.
There is. It might not be immediately obvious when you look at it, beyond, that first chapter of player options, but then those treasures are a pretty saucy draw.
So we've got like all those great adventure hooks, and we've got a lot of tables that are really fun, and a lot of those encounter tables are referencing brand new monsters that we've never seen before, that you kind of interact with in ways that you've never done before. I'm surprised by how many monsters are in this book. There's a lot. It is primarily a monster book. The bestiary chapter is like 75 monsters. It's the biggest chapter of the book. Yeah, can you break down some of that? Because I expected giants, but we're getting different types of giants. Giants that have been affected by the elemental planes, giants that have been affected by the outer planes, that have made deals, that know magic. We have hulks. We have other different creatures that we haven't encountered before, and there's so many different choices and great narrative hooks associated with all of them. I'm genuinely shocked at how many giants there are in this and how different all of them are. Yeah. First off, the Mind Flayer Eden is disgusting. Thank you. Well, there's so many things like that. There's a giant tick. There's like everything that you could possibly kind of want, or like whatever, creepy permutation or like kind of wondrous, like the Mist Hulk. Stuff like that is just amazing to me. You did a pretty good job of hitting on the major categories of monsters that are in this chapter. There's a couple of new kinds of giants. The Death Giant, I think, is the big one there. Yeah. As well as like Fomorians that are not corrupted, not fallen. Yeah. But then magic-using giants that all have some rune-carved item on them that fuels their magical power. We've got giant cultists. So that includes things like 4 elemental evil giants, but then also giants that have been transformed into fiends by their contact with a demon lord or an archdevil. The elemental hulks are sort of a withered branch of the giant family tree. These are giants that have strayed so far from their personhood. They're really just monsters at this point. They're elementals, not giants anymore. And they're weaker and smaller than giants, but they're good monsters to just fight when you need a... we're exploring this ancient giant ruin. It's not inhabited by giants anymore. It's inhabited by these things. We've got a lot of beast-type creatures, including dinosaurs and the aforementioned ticks and oxen, and the grinning cat is a nod to the giant goose. There is a giant goose that lays golden eggs. I'm very fond of that goose. That's another one of my weird little things I put in this book, is the table for what happens when you open the golden egg. What did you enjoy the most about creating this book? Because it's something I came on hammering home. This really does feel like the companion book to Fizban's. We're getting that much lore, that many magical items. We're getting so many more monsters. True confession time. Yeah. I was nervous when I started off working on this book because dragons felt natural and exciting for me. It was like, yes, I can totally write a book about dragons and make it awesome. Giants was like a harder sell. But actually, something that you said when we were talking about Fizban's helped crystallize it in my brain. You talked about remystifying
dragons. And so from the outset, my mission statement for this book was remystifying giants in the same way, and emphasizing that they are big people, but they're not just big people. They're powerful and magical and ancient and glorious. And really digging into that and sinking my teeth into that made me appreciate giants in D&D in a way I never have before.
It's kind of like the giant lore book I always kind of wanted. Like, I would read this even if I didn't play D&D and look through the monsters, because there are so many. Yeah. And again, there's also unique. And the art is so metal. I have no other way to explain this. The art is so... It's over the top because they're giants. Like, if you're a death giant, you're not subtle about it. Like... You're picking up on that vibe, you know, right. Like if you are part demon, part infernal, and also a fire giant, you look like Surtur from like Thor Ragnarok. Like,
yes.
It's so intense. Why should Dungeon Masters, even players, pick up this book? What do they get?
What anybody who picks up this book is going to find is a great big toolbox. So whether you are looking for tools you can add to your character to give them some connection to giants, some flavoring of giants, or you're looking for tools to add to a single encounter, a whole adventure, an entire campaign built around giants. This book is chock full of resources you can use to do that.